Reality. It is the foundation upon which we build our understanding of life, our relationships, and our very selves. But what if reality, as we know it, is not as solid as it seems? What if the world we see, hear, and touch is nothing more than a projection, a kind of illusion, constructed to veil deeper truths about existence? This question, while seemingly fantastical, is rooted in philosophical contemplation and modern scientific exploration alike. From ancient metaphors to the most cutting-edge scientific hypotheses, we have long been challenged to question whether the world we perceive is the true nature of reality or a mere projection of something far greater. One of the most famous early meditations on this idea comes from the Greek philosopher Plato. In the Republic, Plato presents the allegory of the cave, a philosophical parable that examines the difference between perceived reality and true knowledge. In this story, a group of prisoners has been chained inside a dark cave since birth. Their necks and limbs are bound, forcing them to gaze only at the wall in front of them. Behind the prisoners, unknown to them, is a fire, and between the fire and the prisoners, objects are moved. These objects cast shadows on the wall of the cave, and the prisoners, having never seen the real objects, believe that the shadows are the only reality. For the prisoners, these shadowy figures on the wall are their entire universe. They give names to the shadows and construct narratives around them, unaware that they are only looking at mere reflections of true forms. One day, a prisoner is freed and allowed to leave the cave. He emerges into the sunlight and is initially blinded by the brilliance. Slowly, however, he adjusts to the light and begins to see the real world for the first time. He perceives true forms, the actual objects that had cast the shadows, and realizes that everything he once knew was a falsehood, a mere projection. Plato's allegory draws a sharp distinction between the world of appearances and the world of reality. It suggests that most of us, like the prisoners in the cave, live our lives in ignorance, mistaking shadows for substance. For Plato, the path to enlightenment lies in breaking free from the chains of illusion and ascending to the realm of true knowledge. The allegory of the cave serves as an apt metaphor for the exploration of reality as a 3D projection. Just as the prisoners of Plato's cave mistake shadows for reality, could we too be mistaking the 3D world we experience as the full extent of reality, when in fact it is only a projection of a deeper, more profound existence? To unravel this question, we must delve into modern science, metaphysics, and ancient wisdom. One of the most intriguing theories in modern physics is the holographic principle, which offers a revolutionary way of thinking about the nature of our universe. This idea, first proposed by physicist Gerard 't Hooft and expanded upon by Leonard Susskind, suggests that all of the information contained within our three-dimensional universe might actually be encoded on a distant two-dimensional surface. In other words, the three-dimensional world we experience could be a projection of this two-dimensional data, much like a hologram projects a 3D image from a flat surface. The holographic principle was first explored in the context of black holes. Physicists discovered that the amount of information contained in a black hole is proportional not to its volume, but to the area of its event horizon, the two-dimensional surface that surrounds it. This led to the realization that, in principle, all of the information in the universe could be encoded on a similar two-dimensional surface, challenging our assumptions about the nature of space, time, and matter. If the universe is a hologram, it means that the depth, solidity, and structure we experience in the 3D world are not fundamental properties of reality. Instead, they are emergent properties, arising from the way information is encoded on a deeper, more fundamental level. This is akin to how the shadows in Plato's cave are not the true forms, but are merely projections of a more complex reality. But this holographic theory also calls into question the nature of time itself. Just as the 3D world might be a projection, time could also be a kind of illusion, emerging from the interactions of data on this two-dimensional surface. This aligns with the theories of relativity, which suggest that time is not a fixed, linear constant, but a flexible dimension that changes based on the observer's perspective. The implications of a holographic universe are profound, suggesting that everything from the particles in our bodies to the vast galaxies in the cosmos could be part of a holographic projection, not a solid, objective reality. This concept does not only reside in the realm of theoretical physics. It finds echoes in ancient wisdom, particularly in metaphysical and mystical teachings that have long suggested the world of appearances is a temporary illusion, a projection that hides a deeper truth. The holographic principle, in its scientific precision, resonates with the spiritual belief that there is a more profound reality beyond the veil of the material world. The holographic principle presents one part of the puzzle, but quantum mechanics adds another layer of mystery to our understanding of reality. Quantum mechanics, which governs the behavior of particles on the smallest scales, reveals a universe that is far more complex and strange than our classical intuition might suggest. One of the most fascinating and perplexing discoveries in quantum mechanics is the role of the observer in determining the outcome of quantum events. At the heart of this mystery is the famous double-slit experiment. In this experiment, particles, such as electrons, are fired at a screen through two slits. When no one observes the particles, they behave like waves, passing through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern on the screen. However, when the particles are observed, they behave like particles, choosing one slit or the other and producing a different pattern. This experiment suggests that the act of observation, conscious awareness, collapses the wave of probabilities into a single, definite outcome. The implications of this are staggering. If reality exists in a state of probability until it is observed, then the very nature of the 3D world we experience might depend on the act of observation itself. The observer effect challenges the notion of a fixed, objective reality and suggests that consciousness plays an active role in shaping the universe. This leads to the question, are we creating the reality we experience simply by perceiving it? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics go even further, suggesting that reality doesn't exist in any meaningful way until it is observed. Physicist John Wheeler's participatory universe hypothesis proposes that the universe requires observers to bring it into existence. Without consciousness, the universe would remain in a state of potentiality, with no definite form. This resonates deeply with spiritual teachings that place the mind and consciousness at the center of reality creation, hinting at a connection between the scientific and mystical worldviews. This concept of the observer effect aligns with metaphysical teachings found in many traditions, particularly those that emphasize the mind's role in creating illusion, or Maya. The mind, according to these teachings, constructs the world through perception and thought. The 3D world, then, may not be an objective reality, but a subjective construct, a projection of the mind. In the next section, we explore how the brain's own mechanisms for processing sensory data reinforce the idea that reality is shaped by the mind. Building on the quantum perspective, the notion that the mind shapes reality is not limited to the microscopic world of particles. It extends to how we, as human beings, perceive and interpret the world around us. Neuroscientists have long understood that what we perceive as reality is not a direct reflection of the external world, but a constructed experience generated by the brain. Our brains receive sensory data through our eyes, ears, and skin, but this data is often incomplete or ambiguous. The brain then fills in the gaps, interpreting this information to create a coherent narrative that allows us to navigate the world. This means that much of what we experience is not out there in the objective world, but is constructed within our minds. Optical illusions provide a fascinating glimpse into how the brain creates its own version of reality. In the checker shadow illusion, for example, two squares on a checkerboard appear to be different colors because one is in shadow and the other is not. However, both squares are actually the same color. The brain, influenced by its expectations and prior knowledge, interprets the shadow as making the square darker, even though that is not the case in physical reality. This is just one of many examples that show how the brain creates its own interpretation of the world, rather than perceiving it directly. But it is not just vision that is subject to interpretation. Time, too, is experienced differently depending on our state of mind. In moments of intense fear or excitement, time seems to slow down. During periods of routine or boredom, time seems to speed up. This phenomenon is known as time dilation, and is another demonstration of how our perception of reality is shaped by the mind. If time can be experienced subjectively in this way, it calls into question whether time itself is a fixed aspect of reality or merely another projection of the mind. These insights suggest that the 3D world we experience is not the real world in any objective sense, but a mental construct designed to help us make sense of our environment. Ancient spiritual traditions, particularly those in Eastern philosophy, have long held this view. In Hinduism, the concept of Maya teaches that the world we perceive with our senses is an illusion, an elaborate projection created by the mind. Similarly, in Buddhism, the concept of sunyata, or emptiness, suggests that the world of form is transient and lacks inherent existence. These teachings resonate deeply with the findings of neuroscience, which reveal the brain's role in constructing our perception of reality. Thus, both modern science and ancient spiritual wisdom point to the idea that the 3D world is not a fixed, objective reality, but a projection of the mind. As we will explore in the next section, this notion of an illusory world is central to many mystical traditions and provides a key insight into the nature of existence. The concept of Maya, the veil of illusion that hides the true nature of reality, is one of the cornerstones of Hindu philosophy. According to this ancient wisdom, the material world we experience through our senses is not the ultimate reality. Instead, it is a temporary and illusory projection, concealing the deeper truth of oneness and unity that underlies all existence. The word Maya is often translated as illusion, but it carries a deeper meaning, suggesting that the world of appearances is both real and unreal. It is real in the sense that we experience it, but unreal in the sense that it does not represent the ultimate truth. In the Bhagavad Gita, one of Hinduism's most revered texts, Maya is described as a force that binds the soul to the cycle of birth and death, preventing it from seeing the eternal, formless reality beyond. The goal of spiritual practice, according to Hinduism, is to pierce through the veil of Maya and realize that the world of form is a projection of the underlying oneness that is Brahman, the ultimate reality. This realization leads to moksha, or liberation, where the individual soul, Atman, merges with the universal consciousness. The idea of Maya is not confined to Hinduism. In Buddhism, the concept of anatta, or no self, challenges the notion of a fixed, permanent self. Just as the physical world is seen as a temporary illusion, so too is the sense of individual identity. Everything is in a state of constant flux, and what we perceive as separate, individual objects or selves are merely temporary formations, interconnected with everything else. The ultimate truth, according to Buddhism, is not found in the world of form, but in the formless, empty nature of reality, sunyata. These mystical insights align closely with the holographic principle in modern physics. Just as the holographic universe suggests that the 3D world is a projection of deeper information, Maya suggests that the world of appearances is a projection of a deeper, formless reality. In both cases, the world we experience is not the ultimate reality, but a reflection or illusion, concealing a more profound truth. As we move forward, we will explore another concept that bridges the gap between science and spirituality: the Akashic Records, a metaphysical idea that suggests all of reality is encoded in a cosmic memory field, much like the way information is encoded on the surface of a hologram. The Akashic records represent a mystical concept of a universal memory field, often described as a compendium of all knowledge, containing every thought, action, and experience that has ever occurred or will occur. This concept, central to many esoteric traditions, suggests that the information of the universe is stored in a higher dimensional realm and can be accessed by those who attune themselves to the subtle vibrations of the cosmos. According to esoteric teachings, the Akashic records are not physical objects, but rather a metaphysical record of all existence. Mystics, psychics, and spiritual practitioners have long claimed to access these records during deep states of meditation or spiritual insight, retrieving information about past lives, future events, or hidden knowledge. The Akashic records can be seen as a metaphysical parallel to the holographic principle. Just as modern physicists suggest that information about the universe is encoded on a two-dimensional surface, esoteric teachings suggest that all knowledge is encoded in the Akasha, a non-physical medium that transcends time and space. From this perspective, the 3D world we experience could be seen as a kind of reading from this vast universal library, where the past, present, and future are already written. The idea of the Akashic records also resonates with modern theories in physics and information science. Physicist John Wheeler famously suggested that it from bit, the idea that information, rather than matter or energy, is the fundamental building block of the universe. In this view, the universe is a kind of digital simulation, where information is the primary substance from which reality is constructed. The 3D world, then, is a projection of this underlying information, much like a hologram is a projection of encoded light. As we delve deeper into the idea of reality being a projection, another ancient and mystical concept emerges to further illuminate the discussion: sacred geometry. Sacred geometry refers to the mathematical principles and geometric patterns that are believed to underlie all of creation, from the microcosm of atomic structures to the macrocosm of galaxies. These patterns, seen in the natural world, have been revered by ancient civilizations as symbols of the divine order that governs the universe. One of the most fascinating aspects of sacred geometry is the fractal nature of these patterns. Fractals are self-replicating patterns that repeat at different scales, creating complex, infinitely recursive designs. We see fractal patterns in the branching of trees, the spiral of seashells, the formation of clouds, and even the arrangement of galaxies. These patterns suggest that the universe operates according to deeply ordered self-similar principles, where each part reflects the whole. In esoteric traditions, sacred geometry is more than just a mathematical curiosity. It is seen as the blueprint for creation. The flower of life, the Fibonacci sequence, and the golden ratio are just a few examples of sacred geometric forms that have been used in architecture, art, and spiritual symbolism for millennia. These forms are believed to represent the underlying harmony and unity of the cosmos, providing a bridge between the material world and the divine. Interestingly, the concept of fractals and sacred geometry resonates with modern scientific theories, particularly the holographic principle and chaos theory. Just as each part of a fractal contains the whole, the holographic universe suggests that each part of the universe contains information about the entire cosmos. This idea of interconnectedness is central to both sacred geometry and the holographic principle, implying that the 3D world we experience is a reflection of these deeper geometric patterns. The fractal nature of reality also suggests that the universe is far more complex than it appears. Just as a hologram appears to have depth and detail when viewed from certain angles, the universe might be structured in such a way that its true complexity is hidden from us, revealed only through deeper contemplation and exploration. This idea, that reality is layered, fractal, and interconnected, further supports the notion that the 3D world is a projection, a surface reflection of a more intricate, multidimensional reality. The concept of sacred geometry and the fractal nature of reality naturally leads us to another modern interpretation of the 3D projection, the simulation hypothesis. This theory, proposed by philosopher Nick Bostrom, suggests that our entire universe might be a highly advanced simulation, created by a civilization far more technologically sophisticated than our own. According to this hypothesis, the 3D world we experience is not real in the traditional sense, but rather a digital simulation, much like the virtual worlds we create in video games. Bostrom's argument hinges on the idea that if advanced civilizations eventually develop the technology to create detailed simulations of entire worlds, including conscious beings, then it is highly probable that we are living in one of these simulations rather than in base reality. The logic is that given the vast number of possible simulations, the chances of us existing in one are far greater than the chances of us existing in the original universe. The simulation hypothesis raises profound questions about the nature of reality, free will, and the purpose of existence. If we are living in a simulation, then the world we experience is a kind of projection, programmed and controlled by forces beyond our understanding. This idea resonates with ancient philosophical musings, such as Plato's Allegory of the Cave, where the prisoners mistake shadows for reality. In a similar vein, René Descartes' evil demon thought experiment questions whether an all-powerful being could deceive us into believing in a false reality. But the simulation hypothesis goes even further, suggesting that the physical laws we observe, such as gravity, time, and space, are not fundamental features of reality, but programmed parameters within the simulation. This idea aligns with the findings of quantum mechanics, where particles seem to exist in multiple states until observed, as if reality itself is being rendered by a cosmic computer. Interestingly, the simulation hypothesis also intersects with spiritual teachings. Many esoteric traditions suggest that the material world is an illusion or a projection of a higher reality. In Gnosticism, for example, the material world is seen as a false creation, a trap created by a lower deity to keep souls from realizing their divine origin. In this context, the simulation becomes a metaphor for the illusory nature of the physical world, which obscures the true spiritual reality. The possibility that we are living in a simulation also invites us to consider whether it is possible to break free from the confines of the 3D world and access a higher level of existence. In esoteric teachings, this process is known as ascension. In many spiritual and esoteric traditions, the concept of ascension refers to the process of raising one's consciousness to transcend the limitations of the 3D world and access higher dimensions of existence. Ascension is not about escaping the physical world, but about awakening to a deeper, more expansive reality that includes both the material and the spiritual. Through practices such as meditation, breathwork, energy healing, and deep contemplation, individuals can raise their vibrational frequency, allowing them to perceive dimensions beyond the 3D realm. Ascension aligns closely with the holographic principle and the simulation hypothesis. Just as the holographic universe suggests that the 3D world is a projection of deeper information, ascension suggests that we can tune into these higher dimensions by expanding our awareness. In esoteric teachings, the 3D world is seen as a dense material construct that souls enter to learn, grow, and evolve. However, as we raise our consciousness, we begin to see through the illusion of separateness and understand the interconnectedness of all things. This process of awakening involves recognizing that the 3D world is not the entirety of reality, but a temporary stage in a much larger, multidimensional existence. Spiritual traditions, such as Hinduism and Buddhism, have long taught that the material world is a kind of training ground, where souls incarnate to work through karma, learn lessons, and ultimately transcend the limitations of the physical body. In these traditions, ascension is seen as the culmination of this process. where the soul merges with the divine and transcends the cycle of birth and death. The concept of ascension is often described as a shift from a lower vibrational state to a higher one. The 3D world, with its dense matter and fixed laws, is considered a lower vibrational realm, while the higher dimensions are seen as realms of light, energy, and pure consciousness. As individuals ascend, they begin to vibrate at higher frequencies, aligning themselves with the cosmic flow of energy and becoming more attuned to the subtle dimensions of reality. Ascension is also seen as a collective process. Many spiritual teachings suggest that humanity as a whole is undergoing a shift in consciousness, moving from a materialistic, ego-driven way of life to a more spiritual, interconnected way of being. This shift, often referred to as the Great Awakening or the Ascension of Humanity, is believed to be part of a larger cosmic plan, where the Earth and its inhabitants are ascending to a higher vibrational state. As we move closer to understanding the multidimensional nature of reality, it becomes clear that light and energy play a central role in this process. In both science and spirituality, light is considered the building block of reality, a medium through which the 3D projection is generated and sustained. Light, in both scientific and spiritual traditions, is seen as one of the fundamental forces that underpins the fabric of reality. In modern physics, light, specifically photons, is a cornerstone of how we understand the universe. Photons are massless particles that travel at the speed of light, and they are the carriers of the electromagnetic force, one of the 4 fundamental forces of nature. Light enables life, illuminates our world, and forms the basis for all visual perception. Without light, the physical world would be formless and void. But light is not only a physical phenomenon, it is also deeply intertwined with metaphysical and spiritual teachings. In many ancient traditions, light is viewed as the manifestation of divine consciousness. In Christianity, for example, God is often described as light, and in the Gospel of John, we read, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." Similarly, in Gnostic cosmology, the material world is a shadow cast by the true divine light, and the spiritual journey is one of returning to that light. Esoteric traditions often refer to light as the energetic medium through which the material world is created and sustained. In Kabbalistic teachings, for instance, light, referred to as the Or Ein Sof, represents the emanation of divine energy that flows into the world, giving rise to all of creation. In Hinduism and other Eastern philosophies, light is synonymous with consciousness and the divine essence that permeates everything in the universe. The process of enlightenment, as the word itself suggests, is one of becoming light, where an individual's consciousness is illuminated, enabling them to transcend the illusions of the material world. Scientifically, the idea that light plays a crucial role in creating and sustaining reality aligns with many modern theories in physics. Quantum mechanics shows that particles, at their most fundamental level, behave as both particles and waves, with light acting as both a wave and a particle. This duality demonstrates that light does not conform to simple mechanistic rules, but exists in a fluid dynamic state that reflects the complexity of the universe. Similarly, Einstein's famous equation, E = mc2, reveals that energy, light, and matter are interchangeable, further blurring the boundaries between the physical and the energetic. In the context of a holographic or projected universe, light can be understood as the medium through which the projection is generated. Just as a hologram is created by manipulating light, the 3D world we experience might be a product of complex interactions between light, energy, and consciousness. Esoteric teachings often speak of light bodies, or subtle energetic fields that exist beyond the physical form. These teachings suggest that as we raise our consciousness, we attune ourselves to higher frequencies of light and energy, allowing us to transcend the limitations of the 3D world. As we explore the nature of light, we begin to see that it serves as a bridge between science and spirituality, linking the physical world with the unseen realms of consciousness and energy. Light, whether understood as photons or as divine consciousness, is the vehicle through which reality is shaped and experienced. This brings us to the next crucial concept, the idea that consciousness itself plays an active role in creating the reality we perceive. The idea that consciousness creates reality is not new. It is a concept that has been echoed in mystical traditions for millennia and now finds resonance in modern science. From the Vedas of ancient India to the law of attraction popularized by modern New Age thought, there is a deep and enduring belief that the mind holds the power to shape the world around it. This idea, that thought, intention, and consciousness influence the material world, ties directly into the notion that the 3D reality we experience is a projection shaped, in part, by our inner states. One of the central tenets of this belief system is the principle of as within, so without. According to this perspective, the external world is not separate from the internal world of thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Rather, the two are interconnected and reflect one another. In practical terms, this means that the state of our inner consciousness determines the nature of our external experiences. The law of attraction, for instance, posits that by focusing our thoughts on what we desire, we can manifest those desires into reality. This principle suggests that the 3D world is not a static, objective reality, but a dynamic, ever-changing projection shaped by our consciousness. In the field of quantum mechanics, this idea finds a fascinating parallel in the observer effect. As we discussed earlier, particles in the quantum realm exist in a state of probability until they are observed, at which point they collapse into a single state. This suggests that the act of observation, an expression of consciousness, plays a fundamental role in shaping reality. While the observer effect is a well-documented phenomenon in physics, it raises profound questions about the role of the mind in creating the reality we experience. Esoteric teachings have long understood this connection between mind and reality. In the Hermetic tradition, the principle of mentalism states that the all is mind, the universe is mental. According to this principle, the universe itself is a mental construct, and reality is shaped by consciousness. This aligns with teachings from Advaita Vedanta, where the mind is seen as the source of all illusion, Maya, and the goal of spiritual practice is to transcend the mind and recognize the true nature of reality, pure consciousness. The idea that consciousness creates reality has profound implications for how we understand our place in the universe. It suggests that we are not passive observers of an external world, but active participants in the creation of our reality. The 3D world we experience may be a shared projection, but it is shaped and influenced by the collective consciousness of humanity. This leads us naturally to the next topic, the interconnectedness of all things, and how cosmic consciousness weaves everything together into a single, unified whole. At the heart of many spiritual traditions is the understanding that all things in the universe are interconnected, that beneath the apparent separateness of the material world, there is a fundamental unity that binds everything together. This idea of cosmic consciousness suggests that every individual, every particle, and every form is part of a greater whole, and that the boundaries we perceive between ourselves and others, between me and you, are illusory. In the field of quantum physics, this idea of interconnectedness is supported by the phenomenon of quantum entanglement. Entanglement occurs when two particles become linked in such a way that the state of one particle is instantly reflected in the state of the other, regardless of the distance between them. This phenomenon defies classical physics and suggests that at the quantum level, separateness is an illusion. Everything is part of a single, interconnected system, where changes in one part of the system can instantly affect other parts, even across vast distances. The interconnectedness of all things is a central theme in mystical and esoteric traditions. In the teachings of the Buddha, for instance, the concept of dependent origination explains that all phenomena arise in dependence on conditions and are interconnected. Nothing exists in isolation, and the web of cause and effect links everything in a vast cosmic dance. Similarly, in the mystical Sufi tradition, there is the concept of Tawhid, or the unity of all being, where everything in existence is seen as a reflection of the divine. Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious also touches upon this idea. Jung suggested that beneath the individual consciousness lies a deeper, shared unconscious mind, filled with archetypes and symbols that are universal to all human beings. This collective unconscious connects all people, linking them in a web of shared experience and understanding. When viewed through the lens of cosmic consciousness, the 3D world we experience is not a fragmented, isolated reality, but a reflection of the underlying unity that binds all things together. The idea of interconnectedness challenges the notion of separateness and invites us to see ourselves as part of a greater whole, a single, unified consciousness experiencing itself through countless forms. This understanding of interconnectedness also ties into the concept of karma, which suggests that our actions and intentions affect not only our individual lives, but the collective experience of all beings. In this way, the 3D world becomes a field for soul evolution, where the lessons we learn and the experiences we manifest contribute to the growth and development of the collective consciousness. Karma, in its simplest sense, refers to the principle of cause and effect. In many spiritual traditions, it is the cosmic law that governs the consequences of our actions, thoughts, and intentions. But karma is far more than a mechanism of moral justice. It is an integral part of how the universe, and by extension the 3D experience, functions as a field for spiritual evolution. In Hinduism, Buddhism, and other esoteric systems, karma is understood not as punishment or reward, but as a natural force that helps balance the energy we put into the world. Every thought, action, and decision generates energy that reverberates through the universe, creating ripples that shape both our immediate environment and our future experiences. The 3D world in this view is a projection in which these karmic ripples play out. It serves as a stage for learning, growth, and soul evolution, where the lessons of life are embedded in the circumstances we encounter. From this perspective, the 3D world can be seen as a holographic school, where every event, challenge, and opportunity reflects our inner state of consciousness and karmic patterns. Our relationships, struggles, and triumphs are not random, but are intricately connected to the energy we have created in this and previous lifetimes. This view of karma aligns with the metaphysical concept that we are creators of our reality, both individually and collectively. Our past thoughts and actions set the stage for our current experiences, and by understanding this, we can begin to consciously shape our future. Karma is also deeply intertwined with the concept of free will. While our past actions influence our present circumstances, we are not bound by them. Each moment provides an opportunity to act with awareness and intention, thereby influencing the future trajectory of our lives. In this way, the 3D projection we inhabit is not static or predetermined. It is dynamic, continuously shaped by our choices and the energy we contribute to the universe. This view is echoed in Buddhist teachings, where the ultimate goal is to transcend the cycle of karma, samsara, and attain enlightenment. The realization that the 3D world is a field of illusion, Maya, helps the spiritual seeker navigate beyond it. The soul's evolution is guided by the understanding that attachment to material and sensory experiences keeps us bound within the projection. As we learn to act with wisdom and compassion, we clear karmic imprints and move toward higher states of consciousness. Karma's role in shaping the 3D experience also speaks to the collective reality we share. The choices made by individuals and societies ripple outwards, affecting the collective consciousness of humanity. War, peace, love, hate. These are not isolated experiences, but manifestations of collective karma. As humanity awakens to the interconnectedness of all things, there is an increasing recognition that healing must occur on both individual and collective levels. Understanding karma in this broader sense opens the door to higher states of awareness. It encourages us to take responsibility for our actions, not out of fear of consequence, but out of recognition of our role as creators in a vast, interconnected universe. By transcending the illusion of separateness, we align more fully with the flow of cosmic consciousness, moving beyond the limits of the 3D world and into a deeper understanding of reality. The journey we have taken through science, philosophy, and mysticism leads us to a profound realization. The 3D world we experience may not be the ultimate reality, but a projection, a veil that conceals deeper truths about the universe and our place within it. Whether we view it through the lens of the holographic principle, quantum mechanics, or ancient spiritual teachings, the conclusion is strikingly similar. What we perceive as solid, real, and tangible is merely one layer of existence. Science shows us that the universe is not what it seems. The holographic principle suggests that everything we experience could be encoded on a two-dimensional surface, projecting the illusion of depth and space that we perceive as the 3D world. Quantum mechanics reveals that the act of observation shapes the very nature of reality, challenging the idea of a fixed, objective universe. These insights mirror the teachings of ancient mystics who have long described the material world as a temporary illusion, a shadow of a greater, more profound reality. But this projection is not meaningless. The 3D world serves a vital purpose. It is a field for growth, learning, and spiritual evolution. Through the lens of karma, we see how our thoughts, actions, and intentions create the circumstances of our lives, offering us the opportunity to learn, evolve, and ultimately transcend the illusion of separateness. The lessons of the 3D world are woven into the fabric of experience, allowing us to confront our inner realities in the mirrored reflection of the external world. The concept of interconnectedness further illuminates the truth that while the 3D projection may appear to separate us from one another, in reality, all things are one. Whether through the scientific phenomenon of quantum entanglement or the spiritual understanding of cosmic consciousness, we find that the boundaries we perceive between self and other are illusory. We are all part of a single, unified consciousness, experiencing itself through the multiplicity of forms that populate the 3D world. The question of whether we are living in a simulation, a hologram, or an illusion leads us to the same essential truth. The nature of reality is far more complex and mysterious than we can fully comprehend. But by exploring these mysteries, through both scientific inquiry and spiritual practice, we open ourselves to deeper levels of awareness. We begin to see beyond the surface of the 3D projection and glimpse the infinite possibilities of the universe. Ultimately, the purpose of understanding reality as a 3D projection is not to reject the world we live in, but to awaken to its deeper meaning. By recognizing the illusory nature of the 3D world, we are empowered to live with greater freedom, compassion, and wisdom. We see that we are not separate from the universe but are expressions of it, co-creators in the vast, cosmic dance of existence. As we awaken to this truth, we transcend the limitations of the 3D world and align with the higher dimensions of consciousness, where unity, love, and infinite potential await.